Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you are here. You are at the place to be today. And ladies and gentlemen, friends, where is the #1 destination to visit in the world right now? Where is hot and what is at the top of everybody's bucket list for travel? Yes, you've got it. It is Japan, which is why we're here today. And we are here to celebrate the launch of Wendy Wuter's brand new Japan holiday collection, the brochure for 2024 and 2025. Yes, it's out now, it's hot, it's going quickly. Look at the website, ladies and gentlemen, and order your brochure now. So yes, I'm Andy, your host, friends, and we're here to celebrate the launch. We have got lots of exciting things coming up today on Japan. So we're going to be looking at the best tour for first timers. Yes, if you've never traveled to Japan, we're going to be looking at the right tour for you. We're also going to be looking at the best time to go. Do you go in cherry blossom? Do you go in the autumn? Are there other times of the year to go? We'll be looking at that too. And we also have, yes, some very exciting news for you. We have got a brand new tour, which is the essence of South Korea and Japan. Yeah, we'll be looking at all of that later in today's show. It's exciting. Stay with us right through the show today. And at the end of today's show, we'll be opening up our travel lounge. Now, the travel lounge is the perfect opportunity for you to meet the travel experts, the Japan experts here at Wendy Wuter's, to ask all of your questions on anything in today's show, anything on Japan, and anything on escorted touring. It's a great opportunity to mingle, ask other guests. We really have a good time in the lounge. So stay with us until the end of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, a real treat for you now. I'm joined by Peter Crane, Global Head of Product here at Wendy Wuter's. Peter, amazing to see you today.
It's great to be here, Andy.
Brilliant. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're wondering, I'm wondering, Peter, I've got to ask you, why Japan with Wendy Wuter's?
Wendy Wuter's have grown to become the experts, the leaders in cultural touring to Japan. We're the UK's #1 tour operator to Japan. We've got 11 different touring itineraries ranging from 8 days right up to a 21-day really comprehensive tour. We've got programs that combine China with Japan, South Korea with Japan is the new one that we'll talk about in a minute. But the Japan cultural touring is second to none. There are no other tour operators out there with the range of itineraries that we offer. And the tours themselves are fully inclusive with all the meals, the transport, the sightseeing, the guiding included, plus of course the authentic experiences that Wendy Wuter's have become famous for. So when we go to Japan, we don't just bring you back having shown you the history and the sights, we take you into the real heart of the country, the culture of the country, to learn about, for example, the tea ceremonies, we visit a wasabi farm to learn about one of the key ingredients of Japanese cuisine. We roll our sleeves up and do sushi making experience, origami, calligraphy, you name it. Lots and lots of different experiences that really get under the skin of the destination. So the tours themselves are really comprehensive, very, very busy, very full. And we like to think you'll come back from Japan having seen everything the country has to offer. A key to what that's all about is the guide. The national guides that we contract to lead our tours in Japan are the best in Japan. They know the country like the back of their hands. They bring it to life for you. They take you to the places that you can't get to easily on your own. And they really show you the side of Japan that, that will bring you back, have it feeling as though you've really learned the destination from bottom up.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined now by Lee Holden, Head of Marketing here at Wendy Wuter's. Lee, great to see you today.
Nice to see you, Andy, and hello everybody.
Now Lee, common question that comes across a lot is, what is the best tour to Japan for first timers?
Well, you're right, Andy. It's a very popular question, and of course it's one that's very difficult to answer. We've got 8 or 9 tours into Japan, all going to lots of different parts of the island, but the one that we recommend for first timers is one of our most extensive and certainly our most popular tour, which is Japan Uncovered. It's a 17-night tour, starts in Osaka, goes all the way up through Honshu, taking in all of the main attractions, the classical sites, the cities, the history, lots of key cultural activities as well, finishing in Tokyo. And it's an absolutely incredible tour that I've been lucky enough to experience for myself as well, so I can heartily recommend it.
So Lee, that sounds really impressive. Love the sound of Japan Uncovered, but tell me, what do people go on this tour for? What are the key sites?
Well, obviously a huge draw for a lot of people is Japan's unique history. Closed off to the world for hundreds of years, it's developed in a way that no other country in the world has. So this tour makes sure you experience all of those sites. So those might be the castles. There's really impressive examples in Osaka, Himeji and Matsumoto as well. And of course we see some beautiful examples of temples throughout the country as well. So in Nara, the historic capital of Japan, you see beautiful gardens, fabulous temples that are hundreds of years old. We also see the Golden Temple in Kyoto, great examples of the Zen shrines, the Zensoji in Kyoto as well. Everywhere we go, Nagano, the floating torii gates at Miyajima, there's beautiful scarlet gates at the Fujinami Shrine as well. So everywhere we go, we see beautiful temples and really impressive castles. And we see that on lots of different scales as well. So Kyoto is a huge city, but it's almost like an open living museum, really. There's so much to see there. But in towns like Takayama, we see a different scale there, where we see historic temple houses, beautiful old shopping streets. And then up in the Japanese Alps, we go to tiny little villages like Shirakago, which are these wonderful steep-sided houses with these roofs that are built for the 4 or 5 meters of snow they have there. So you see it on a wonderful scale there as well. So every aspect of the history that is to see, we experience it on this tour.
So Lee, of course, Japan is not all about history, as we've talked about so far. It's a thriving, modern, cosmopolitan country. Tell us a little bit more.
Absolutely, and this tour takes in some of the great cities in Japan as well. Now, Kyoto we just mentioned, which is great for its historic charms, but the perfect example is Tokyo. Super modern, vibrant metropolis, neon lights everywhere, really thriving city. So you'll get to go on the scramble crossing at Shibuya, which everyone has seen. It's famously people moving in all sorts of directions. Climb the Tokyo Tower, which gives fabulous views all the way out as far as Mount Fuji on a clear day. But we'll also go to lesser known spots like Osaka, which is not necessarily on the tourist trail, but is one of the first places that was opened up to Westerners, so it has a real cosmopolitan feel, great dining scene as well. And we also drop in Hiroshima as well, so which has obviously a tragic past, but now when you come and see it, it's a thriving city that has a real optimistic outlook. And it's a fascinating place to visit as well. So we get to see lots of different aspects of Japan.
All sounds fantastically, but when we get away from the cities, what can we see?
Well, it's a little known fact about Japan actually, Andy, that the country is incredibly mountainous. So most of the country is covered in forests, mountains, and it's a spectacular country to look at. So even traveling between the sites is a joy itself, just looking out the window and watching the scenery go by. But we make sure that we get out into the countryside, we get up into the Japanese Alps. A lot of tours don't get out to these points, obviously they're just traveling along the Golden Route. But up in the Japanese Alps, we get a chance to see the adorable snow monkeys, and they may be bathing or scampering around with their little ones in the forests. The area around Mount Fuji itself is also beautiful, so we climb up to the 5th station at Mount Fuji, so we've got the mountain at our back, seeing spectacular views out there. We go down to the Fuji 5 Lakes area, which is a really pretty area around Mount Fuji, great views of the mountain itself. And we go to Hakone as well. So again, beautiful lakeside. We take a cruise on the lake there. We take the cable car ride up there. And again, we've got spectacular views of Fuji as well. So you're right, it's not just about the cities. The Japanese have a deep reverence for nature. So even when you are in the towns, you see these beautiful gardens, and we make sure we see all of those aspects of the gardens. We see the famous gardens like Kenruken and Sensoji, the Zen garden that you'd probably be famous for, you know all about, with the rock gardens and the stones. But we also see some hidden gems as well, like at the Samurai House in Takayama, which is a beautiful example of a place that you would never really find on your own. You can just get to sit and enjoy, listen to the sounds of nature, but you're in the heart of the city. It's beautiful.
Lee, again, sounds amazing. I can't believe just how much is included in this tour. But of course, Japan, very famous for the culture. How does Wendy Wu Tour ensure guests really get to experience that culture?
You're right, it's a really unique culture, Japan. And with all of the tours that we do at Wendy Wu Tours, we try and include as many cultural activities, hands-on things that you can do to really get under the skin of the country and make sure that you're not just wandering around the sites looking at things, you're actually getting to experience it and understand the local culture we get there. And Japan is no different, and this tour is absolutely crammed full of key cultural activities that are great fun things to do, but also just give you a real understanding of how the culture works. So for example, in Kyoto, we get to experience a tea ceremony, an age-old ritual in Japan, and we get to see that with an experienced tea master who takes us through the whole ritual, and then you actually get to enjoy the tea yourself at the end of it as well. Up in the Japanese Alps, we experience washi paper making. So this is really high quality paper, and we get a chance to actually make some of that ourselves. So it's a really hands-on experience, good fun, and you get to take home some lovely souvenirs with that as well. May and September, if we're in Tokyo at the right time, we get to attend a sumo ceremony as well. So when the sumo tournaments are in, that is really good fun. One of the highlights of the trip I had when I was there. We get to a miso house. We get to spend some time in an onsen as well, hot springs. So that's a wonderfully relaxing and traditional way to spend our evenings there. We get to make origami paper cranes in Hiroshima. The experiences just keep on coming. It's wonderful.
Now Lee, billion-dollar question for you. The food. Is it all sushi?
Well, I think it's often the question that everyone has when they go away on tour is, what about the food? And you're right, sushi is probably the most famous food export from Japan, but no, Andy, it's not all about sushi. You will have great sushi, you'll have great sashimi while you're away as well, but Japan has so many different kinds of regional cuisines, and you'll get to experience them all. What we love to do on a Wendy Wu tour is, for lunch, we always try and eat somewhere local. So we eat what the locals eat, and we eat where they eat as well. So in Osaka, that might mean going to the Dotonbori district, which is the foodie part of Osaka, and we get to experience okonomiyaki there, which is this great kind of pancake dish, which is fabulously tasty. But we have beef hot pot, we're in Takayama. We have noodle dishes looking over the Pacific Ocean. We have teppanyaki, yakitori. We also get to go to, when we're in the sumo district in Tokyo, we get to experience what the sumos eat there. Surprisingly healthy and tasty dish there as well. So everywhere you go, you'll have something different to eat, and the food is always delicious, and of course it's beautifully presented as well.
Lee, you're making me so hungry. I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you are feeling hungry now after that. Lee, fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andy.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're like me, you're wondering, Japan, when do I go? When is the best time to go? We've heard cherry blossom, we've heard autumn leaves, we've heard Christmas. Peter, when is the best time?
Well, for us, we recommend that the best seasons for Japan are the spring or the autumn. The spring is the most popular time of year in Japan for one very specific reason. It's the sakura season, or what we call cherry blossom. So from mid-March until mid-April, the whole of Japan gives over to the cherry blossom season. It's not just a really spectacular and dramatic sight with thousands and thousands of cherry trees in full bloom. It's also a really culturally important time in Japan because the local people celebrate the cherry blossom and join with their families and their friends and go out into the parks, have picnics under the cherry blossom, and the belief is that the transience of the blossom itself symbolises the transience of life. So it's an important time to get together with your friends and your family and celebrate. Mid-March to mid-April, cherry blossom is probably the most popular time to go. So some of our departures in spring next year are already fully sold out. And I would recommend that if you are thinking of going during the cherry blossom season, book sooner rather than later so that you can get that spot on the tour of your choice. Also because before the cost of the flights starts increasing too much. The other optimal time to go in the spring season is in May. It's a beautiful time of year, a little bit quieter than cherry blossom, but it's the time to go for the sumo wrestling. The sumo season takes place in May and September each year, and if you're interested to see sumo wrestling in action, that's the perfect time to go, in May or September. Later in the autumn season, in October and November, is the optimal time for the autumn leaves. So if you are into your gardening, the horticultural side of things, the autumn leaves, and in particular in the Japanese ornamental gardens, are absolutely stunning. They are some of the most dramatic displays of autumn leaves anywhere in the world, reflected very often in the ornamental ponds in the Japanese gardens. Every shade of yellow, orange, red and brown you can imagine. Absolutely delightful. And the autumn in Japan lasts very deep into the autumn, even right through to the end of November. You can travel to the southern half of Honshu Island or Kyushu in the south and see the autumn leaves at their absolute peak on the last few days of November. So if you're spontaneous and you feel you want to book a trip this year, we do have spaces left on a handful of departures at the end of November for the autumn leaves season this year. There's one other little secret we've got up our sleeves regarding seasonality in Japan, and that's the winter season. Not many people do travel to Japan in the winter except for skiing up in the north, but there is a great opportunity to go there and see some of the sites under snow. It's a very snowy destination, especially the eastern side of the island, and it's a popular time of year to travel to see those sites covered in snow. We've got a tour called Christmas in Japan. We hope, or we expect, that on Christmas Day we'll be visiting the Golden Pavilion, which is one of the most dramatic sites located on the edge of a pond in an ornamental garden covered in snow, perhaps even ice on the pond as well. So that's going to be a real treat.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you heard at the beginning of today's show really exciting news here from Wendy Tours. A brand new tour. Yes, this is Essence of South Korea and Japan. Peter, this sounds amazing. Tell us more about this.
It will be amazing. This tour we're really excited about. It's a 16-day tour and it combines two of our favorite destinations, South Korea and Japan. 6 days in South Korea, 10 days in Japan, and if you had to lay down all the highlights you'd want to cover in those two destinations in that space of time, they are the ones we have on this program. It's an amazing array of highlights, starting in Seoul, the capital of South Korea, which I don't know if you've been there, but it's a stunning place, a city like no other. It's bustling, it's busy, it's very up and coming, very youthful, So we start in Seoul. We have a visit to the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone, which is the zone, the no man's land between North and South Korea, separating the peninsula. Fascinating place to visit. From there, we travel southwards down the Korean peninsula to Gyeongju, the cultural heart of South Korea. And this city is described as a museum with no walls. It's got any number of UNESCO listed sites to visit, temples, relics from the past, the cultural heart of South Korea, as I said. From there, we travel further south and east to a coastal city called Busan, a beautiful, attractive, laid-back place on the coast. From there, we take a ferry across to Japan and land in Japan in the city of Fukuoka, which is on the southern island of Kyushu. Fukuoka itself is lovely. From there, we travel up to Hiroshima, which people will have heard of course, the site of the first atomic bomb. Visit the memorial park there and the museum. From Hiroshima, we travel to Miyajima, which is needs no introduction. It's just a stunning shrine, a temple on the edge of the sea there, and again UNESCO listed. From there, we continue up to Osaka, and from there to Kyoto. From Kyoto, which is the cultural center of the whole of Japan, we visit. We then move on to Hakone, which is the location from which we can see Mount Fuji, that famous silhouette of Mount Fuji, and finish up the tour in Tokyo, the capital of Japan. So it's a really comprehensive tour. Every single day seems to deliver 2 or 3 more highlights. As I mentioned before, it's more than just the sightseeing, though. We do have lots of new experiences to enjoy in both countries. In Japan, for example, we're trying our hand at cultivating and pruning bonsai trees, which is something a little bit unusual, but bonsai cultivation is very much at the heart of Japanese culture, and that's a really sort of a different, slightly quirky angle on a visit to Japan.
Peter, it sounds great. Ladies and gentlemen, doesn't that sound wonderful? That's essence of South Korea and Japan, and you can find that, as we say, in the brand new brochure, the new touring collection, Japan touring collection from Wendy Tours. Click on the website and you'll be able to order your brochure there and see this tour and all the other tours that we've mentioned so far. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I've been very fortunate that I've had 2 long tours already with Wendy Wu, 4 weeks in China and 4 weeks in South America, both on my own, and they were absolutely fantastic, to the extent that I almost don't want to travel with any other company now, because I just feel everything is so well organised, from the initial booking to getting safely back to England. The guides are superb. The range of activity suits me perfectly. So there's some history, some geography, quite a lot about the culture of the area, the opportunity to try things, whether it's dance, music, cooking. every day brings a new delight, really. And I do feel so well looked after. If there's any sort of problem, like in the run up to this trip, I was worried about COVID and what would happen if I tested positive, what would happen if I had to isolate. And the logistics department answered all my queries immediately and was so reassuring and made me feel confident that people would help me every inch of the way. And that has been the case, actually. It's been marvellous to be so well looked after. I love that the meals are included, so I don't need to start wandering around at night on my own, trying to find somewhere for dinner in a strange area. I love it that all the entries are included, so there's not this big debate about should I, shan't I, how much is it going to cost, how much money do I need to take with me. I've hardly spent anything, to be honest, just incidental expenditure. So I think the value for money, which is not my main priority, but it is also extremely good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've already looked at some of our favourite touring experiences in Japan. But yes, there is so much more to see in Japan, so many more tours that you can choose from the Wendy Wu Tours collection. As we're going to find out now from Kate, who's going to reveal some more of Wendy Wu Tours' top tips in Japan.
Hello everyone. So, Japan Uncovered, as you've heard, is a really wonderful tour which focuses on all of the highlights on the island of Honshu. But of course, as the #1 tour operator to Japan, we don't just offer one tour. We actually have 11 tours to Japan, and they range from 8 up to 21 days, taking in all the famous highlights, but also taking you to some off the beaten track wonders. You can choose to explore from Kyushu down in the south up to the north in Hokkaido. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more now about 3 of our other tours to Japan, which will show you a slightly different side of the country. The first tour is Japan and the Scenic South. And like Japan Uncovered, this tour takes in all the highlights of Honshu. So you'll visit Hiroshima, Kyoto and Tokyo, but it also explores the beauty of the lesser known island of Kyushu in the south, where you'll find active volcanoes, hot springs, and an island that has its own unique culture. This tour starts on the island of Kyushu, and we fly into Fukuoka. Well, Fukuoka is actually the closest port to mainland Asia, and it's geographically closer to Seoul than it is to Tokyo. It's always been a really cosmopolitan of Japanese cities. Whilst there, we're going to explore beautiful classical gardens, visit one of the country's most important shrines, and enjoy a cruise on the Yanagawa River, which is just magical, especially if you're lucky enough to go in the spring when the banks are full of cherry blossom. You'll also visit the magnificent Kumamoto Castle, which is widely regarded as one of the 3 premier castles in Japan. Then you're off to see Mount Aso, a huge active volcano. It's spectacular, one of the largest craters in the world, and it's surrounded by other active volcanoes, so the views are really incredible. And from there, we head northeast to Beppu, which is one of Japan's most famous hot spring resorts. It's set between the ocean and volcanic mountains, and the area is home to more than 2,000 onsen, which are traditional spa resorts. And in fact, we'll stay in a hotel with its own onsen facilities, so you'll all be able to enjoy a hot soak and soak away any aches and pains and tiredness. And from there, we move on to Honshu, the main island, and then we'll start to explore all of the delights of that island, which Peter has already told you about. The next tour to tell you about is Japan by Rail. Japan by Rail is our most comprehensive tour of Japan. It's a full 21-day tour, packed with sights, packed with experiences. You'll be travelling mainly by bullet train, and on this tour you'll take in the highlights of all 3 of Japan's main islands: Kyushu in the south, Honshu and Hokkaido to the north. We'll start in the south, as on our last tour, flying into Fukuoka. We then visit both Nagasaki and Hiroshima, where you'll be able to visit some moving museums and also some beautiful gardens. We then move over to Honshu and take in all of the highlights that Peter talked about earlier: Kyoto, Osaka, Nara, Mount Fuji, Tokyo, but the time that you've got on this tour means you'll be able to see even more. We'll cruise on Matsushima Bay, we'll enjoy a tour of the Nikka Whiskey Factory, and then we'll move on to the island of Hokkaido in the far north. Now, Hokkaido is far more sparsely populated than the rest of the country, and again, it has its own unique culture, and it's a part of Japan that few people visit, so it's a real treat. Now, Japan by rail is packed full of experiences, and you will have so many opportunities to really immerse yourself in the culture. You'll get to try your hand at making momiji manju, which are little buns that look like maple leaves. You'll learn how to make sushi. You'll decorate your own sake cup to take home as a souvenir, whilst learning all about the significance and the history of the drink. You'll witness traditional tea ceremonies. You'll enjoy a calligraphy lesson. You'll try your hand at fan painting. You'll try Zen meditation. The list goes on. Wendy Wu Tours loves to pack your tours full of these experiences. Remember, they're all included in your fully inclusive tour price, and they really are exclusive once-in-a-lifetime experiences. And finally, on to tour number 3. If you want to really get off the beaten track and get under the skin of modern and historic Japan, then the tour for you is Offbeat Japan. Offbeat Japan is one of our Go Beyond tours, and that means you'll be travelling in a slightly smaller group. These tours are all about getting off the beaten track and having some quite unique experiences. Of course, on this tour, you will see the iconic highlights: Tokyo, Kyoto, Mount Fuji, and so on. But this tour is really about immersing yourself in the culture. Japan itself has such a fascinating mix of the old and the new, the ancient traditions, and then the new modern world, the technology. In one day on this tour in Tokyo, we get to try our hand at the traditional art of taiko drumming. Then we go and visit the famous Meiji Shrine. And there's other experiences too. So on this tour, you will learn to dress yourselves in a kimono. You'll be able to try origami, and of course witness a traditional tea ceremony in Kyoto. And wherever you go in Japan, if there's a regional dish, our guides will find you an opportunity to try it. One of the really special highlights on this tour is a visit to Koyasan. It's a very spiritual part of Japan, and you'll get to spend the night in a 13th century guest house. You'll wake up early with the monks and join them for their morning prayer, listening to their chants. It's such a magical experience and such a special opportunity. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more information about some of our other Japan tours. You're spoilt for choice. And if you need any more help deciding which one's for you, give us a call and our reservations team will be able to answer your questions and help you find the tour that suits you best.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing show that we've had today. It's been absolute fun and my pleasure to be with you here today on this fantastic Japan Brochure Launch Collection show. Amazing. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, as I said at the beginning of the show, please do go to the Wendy Wu Tours website, click on brochures, and you can order your brochure there, which will be delivered exclusively to you, to your doorstep, through your door, completely free of charge. It's available now, it's very hot, so please do order right away. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open up the Travel Lounge. Yes, your opportunity here to speak to the travel experts, to ask anything about touring in Japan and anything on escorted touring with Wendy Wu Tours. So if you scroll down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the red button. Click on that red button now and you'll be taken straight through to the Travel Lounge. Yeah, we're going to have some fun in there. So I look forward to seeing you. I'm Andy, your host on today's show, and I'll see you now in the Travel Lounge.
We found Wendy Wu to be spot on from start to finish, with all the actual interactions from the booking to the preparation for the trip to arriving at the airport. It's been painless and faultless. Wendy Wu, they really do look after you.
I've been on other tours before, and yeah, Wendy Wu definitely includes sort of a lot more, makes it a lot easier.
I liked the idea of what Wendy Wu offered. They have an excellent reputation. So I looked at a number of other tour companies, but Wendy Wu seemed to be the best.
Everything being included is really important. It makes it very, very easy and you don't have to worry.
I just felt confident that that Wendy Wu would know, the best places to go and the best things to do, and it's proved so far on the trip, it's proved correct.
I've been really impressed with not only right from the start when I rang up to book, the staff in the office were really helpful, just kind of organising things and making sure that we got all the right paperwork in.
Our national escort was Lily. Lily's been fantastic, so full of energy and so helpful. She calls us Lily's family. She's always referring to us as Lily's family, and I think she's really helped us actually bond as a group, which made the whole trip much more enjoyable.
The Great Wall was extraordinary. It genuinely brought tears to my eyes, looking out and understanding the history, and just seeing how it was built in inhospitable terrain across the mountain ridges. It was awe-inspiring.
Wendy Wu staff, the local guides, our national guide Lily, they've been more than helpful on many occasions, and they have done absolutely everything they can to ensure that we've had the trip of a lifetime.
I hugged a panda, which was an amazing experience and one that I will never forget.
I recommend Wendy Wu Tour to everybody, and tell them that if they want to go to China, nobody better than Wendy Wu Tour.
I will recommend Wendy Wu. It's been a terrific experience with them. I've been very pleased.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
I'd recommend it to people that want to go on an adventure and visit somewhere they'd probably only see once, but to see the authenticity rather than just the tourist highlights that you could see internet.
I will certainly recommend Wendy Wu Tours when I go back to England. In fact, I'm sure we'll be going on more Wendy Wu Tours because we want to go to Vietnam and other places, and I'll see Wendy Wu do those tours, so we'll certainly be booking again with Wendy Wu.